All right. Hey, everybody. This is Rosh, and you are watching Helix Basics. This is a YouTube tutorial series I'm putting together to help new and experienced users program their Line 6 Helix. So a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I build and program guitar rigs out here in the LA area as well as online. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, A Perfect Circle, Bush, Kylie Minogue, Maroon 5, and more. So I want to give back to the Helix community and show some tips and tricks on how to program their Line 6 Helix. If you've been watching this YouTube channel, you've definitely seen a lot of fractal audio content. And one of the things a lot of people don't know about me is I program all the modelers out there on the market, including the Line 6 Helix, Quad Cortex, the Kemper, and all the fractal products. So there's a lot of crossover content, a lot of best practices, no matter what modeler you choose, to help get you the best functionality, the best tone, both live in the studio, on tour, and wherever else you may find yourself. So if you've been watching the previous videos, we've been diving into snapshots, and snapshots are a basic way to turn on and off multiple effects at the same time, building, so you don't have to do the quote unquote tap dance. You can engage delays and reverbs and other things with one button press. Now, another great functionality of snapshots is it also allows you to control parameters within any of the blocks. So for example, what we can do is if we actually have an amp in here, so we can basically take an amplifier and in this case, let's just use the match stick. What you can do is within each snapshot, you can actually control the amount of drive. So snapshot 1 could be, for example, a clean sound. And then what you can do is as you go through each snapshot, you can get a little crunchier, a little bit more gain, and then maybe with a lead sound, you want the drive all the way up to here. So snapshots are a really useful tool to allow you to dial in any parameter you would like, and each snapshot will adjust the knobs as such. So another useful way to think about this too is that you can use a snapshot to increase the channel volume. So maybe one of the lead sounds, you may want this louder or quieter. Maybe if you are doing snapshots for different sections of songs, maybe you have a quiet section of the song and you want the same exact guitar tone, but you just want to press a button and then bring the channel volume down or the volume of the overall preset down. You can do that as well. So what we're going to do here in this particular tutorial is I'll just do a quick dive into some snapshots and how to implement them. So first, what we're going to do is I'm just going to make a quick preset using the matchless amp. And again, I'm going to use the matching matchless cabinet, but instead of using a single, I'm going to use a double. And then let's just dial this in really quickly. Again, if you want to watch me dial in a crunch sound using a Vox style amp, definitely watch one of my other videos. So we'll just kind of set this to some default settings and just make it sound pretty good. So again, I'm just going to do the cap edge here. I'm going to do some standard low and high cuts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ribbon mic in this second cabinet to kind of fill out the rest of this. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring the level down so we can at least just get a sense of what the dynamic microphone is doing. So here we go. Well, definitely need a lot more drive. So let's bring this up and then let's bring the channel volume up a little bit. So right here, I'm using a Les Paul and that's in the neck pickup. I can definitely bring the cut down a little bit and bring the treble up and then maybe the bass down. So yeah, that sounds pretty good. And again, we're going for a clean sound. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the first 4 snapshots to go through different levels of gain with this amp. Now, if you're listening along and you haven't seen some of my other videos using the dual cabinets, my paradigm is always that I use the dynamic microphone to add a lot of the mid-range and the cutting frequencies. And then I'm going to use the second cabinet with a ribbon mic to kind of fill out the low end as well as the smooth top end. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a Royer ribbon mic. And we're going to put this again at the cap edge. I definitely recommend starting here, moving closer towards the center if you need the microphone brighter, or if you need a darker tone, you move it away from the center. So let's do some more low and high cuts, pretty standard stuff. All right, so now that we have the 57 on, I'm going to use this level slider and blend in the ribbon mic. Yeah, sounds pretty good. And again, the tone is a lot fuller. Now, I'm kind of noticing this kind of boxy, mid-rangey frequency right here at the cap edge. So I'm going to actually move this microphone out just a little further. Yeah, that sounds much better. And again, I'm also going to do the same thing with this. I find there's some kind of mid-range frequency that I'm just not super digging. And I'm going to use the distance, and I'm going to bring this microphone a little bit closer to the speaker to add more low end. So let's take a listen here. And again, that's the bridge pickup of my Les Paul. That's pretty clean for me. Again, you may want it cleaner, so of course you can turn the drive up or down. But again, with the Snapshots, the cool thing is you can adjust where this, for example, drive knob could be in each snapshot. So the first thing that we're going to do is let's add a reverb just to kind of give it a little bit of space. But again, most of this tutorial is going to be dealing with just how to use Snapshots to adjust different parameters. So I'll just do some basic hall reverb right there. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, for example, let's say snapshot number 1, and I'm going to use this rename snapshot function, is something that you want to use as a clean sound. So what the next step that you can do is, if you wanted to, let's say, have a crunch sound in snapshot number 2, you can have the Helix actually adjust where this parameter is. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to right click, or you're going to want to control click the slider that you want to assign to a controller, and then you're going to want to go down to snapshots. So the first thing you'll see now is that this bracket is going to form right here on the right side. And again, on a Mac, if I'm using a Mac laptop, I can also hold down Control and then click that. You can use the right click function on your mouse. So now that we have that, you can see this little icon right here, meaning that this drive knob is now associated with each snapshot. So for example, if we go to snapshot number 2, for example, and let's say we wanted this to be a crunch sound, so I'm going to rename this crunch. What you can do is actually make sure you're on the snapshot you want to adjust, and you can actually just bring this slider over to the right a little bit. So now you'll notice that if I go from snapshot 1, the parameter is at 1.7 right there, and the slider is right about here. And if I go to snapshot number 2, the drive goes to 2.8. So you can see that the slider is basically moving between, snapshot 1 and snapshot 2. Now, one thing that is going to be pretty common for a lot of these amps, especially if you're adjusting the drive, especially for an amp like the Matchstick, which is a matchless like DC30, is the channel volume may also need some adjustment, because this is analogous to the volume knob on those amps. And so as you turn the drive up, you may notice some volume discrepancy. So what I'm going to do again is assign the channel volume between each snapshot. Note that we are on the clean snapshot right here. And again, we can just move this slider and adjust between both. So I'm going to, again, control click here. I'm going to scroll down until I get to snapshots. And then now this is also assigned to a snapshot. So again, going between 1 and 2, we can also move the channel volume wherever it is. And we can just level this out by ear. So here's the clean sound. Now if I go to snapshot number 2, note that the gain went up and the volume is probably going to jump up too. Yeah, so what I want to do is we added a little bit more gain, so I'm going to drop this channel volume just a hair to level out between those two sounds. Now, on a Mac, what you can do is, of course, you can use these shortcuts right here, holding down the Command key and hitting 1 or 2 to toggle between these two snapshots. So again, I'm just kind of leveling out these two sounds. As you notice, when I brought up the drive, the volume of the snapshot went up as well. There you go. And then now, let's say in snapshot number 3, we wanted to go a step further and we wanted the gain to be even more than the crunch sound. So for example, snapshot 2, the crunch was around 2.8. So in snapshot number 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to maybe 4 or something. And again, we can also dial in the channel volume to compensate for any level discrepancy. So here is snapshot number 3. I actually want a little bit more gain than that, and I'm going to bring this channel volume down to compensate. So right here, we could have kind of like a rock rhythm sound with a snapshot. So really super useful. And again, what I will do is I will rename the snapshot to rhythm. So right here within 1 amp, we have a basic clean sound. We have a crunch sound. And then we have a rhythm sound. I'll bring that volume up just a hair. And again, another example of something that we can do, of course, is we can go into snapshot number 4, and we can use the same exact settings here, but maybe you want to use it as a lead sound. So I will note that it's 5.3 and 7.4 here. And then I will go into snapshot number 4. So again, I will dial this to 5.3 to get the same level of gain. And then it was at 7.4 in the previous snapshot. Maybe I want to just boost this up just a hair for a lead sound. So again, snapshot number 3 and snapshot number 4 are going to sound sonically the same, but just at a different volume. So here's snapshot number 3, and then here's snapshot number 4. I could probably bring up the volume just a little bit more, just to compensate. So another useful way to get a lead sound. Now, you're not limited to just the drive. You can, of course, control any parameter you would like, including, the bass, the mid, the treble, depending on the amp that you're using. So I find it very useful for, certain amps. As you increase the drive, you may notice that the low end gets a little woofy. I notice this a lot in, lower wattage amps, such as any of these AC style amps. They're only 30 watts. So as you increase the drive, for me, sometimes I feel like I would need to cut the bass. But again, I wouldn't want to cut the bass on a clean channel where the drive is set pretty low. So you can also compensate for that with the snapshots. So now what we've done is we've made 4 snapshots. I'm going to actually rename this snapshot really quick. And now we have basically 4 different sounds. Now, snapshots aren't only limited to just controlling parameters. You can, of course, turn on and off effects in addition to controlling the parameters, which is really useful. So for example, if we had a delay block here, I'll just dial in a quick delay. Let's move this down just a hair, and let's bring the mix and the feedback down just a hair. So let's say, for example, the lead sound you wanted the delay on, but none of the other sounds you wanted the delay off. What you can do is, of course, as quickly as you want to do, you can just go through each snapshot, turn off the delay. But in the 4th snapshot with our lead sound, we actually have the delay on. So again, here's my clean sound. Note that the delay is off. Same thing with the crunch. Same thing with the rhythm sound. And then now the lead sound has the delay on. And again, the amplifier knobs are actually changing, so the parameters are still changing as we cycle through each snapshot. So it's a useful way to not only control amp parameters, but also turn on effects. And again, what you're doing is doing all this with 1 foot tap. So it's a really useful way to get a lot of different sounds and a wide variety of sounds. Maybe you are the type of player who likes to just use 1 amp and just use that to control different levels of drive. I find this also useful for a lot of players who maybe are a little bit more of the ride the volume knob on their guitar kind of player. And then maybe you just like using, your amp at certain settings. So if you do have a favorite amp in here where, for example, the Marshalls are really great for this, where certain levels of drive are going to provide you, some of the tones that you would really like. You can do that instead of having to use 2 different amps of the same type, just using, with different drive levels. You can just do this all within snapshots. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up for this. Again, controlling parameters with snapshots, I think, is super useful. Now, keep in mind, it isn't only for the amplifier block. You can control pretty much any parameter that has any of these sliders. So, of course, there are different ways to, maybe you want to have a snapshot where the mix is going to be a lot, is going to be increased, and the feedback is going to be increased on just the delay, but only in 1 snapshot. You can do the same thing here. So again, control clicking any of these and assigning it to a snapshot will get you that. A lot of experimentation will get you exactly the type of functionality and tone you're looking for. So if you guys need any one-on-one help programming your Helix or any other modeler out there, would be happy to help you out. Feel free to contact me directly, and we can set up a one-on-one session. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
I'm falling with you, I'm standing with you, got it all in my hands, but I don't know Walking outside, taking it